Welcome to Malpractice Podcast.
Hi, are you ready to get started?
I am ready. I'm super ready.
Very ready. I'm Sydney.
And I'm Jess.
And this is Malpractice Podcast.
And we're ready.
And we're ready, and it's kind of the morning. No, it's really not morning anymore.
It's still morning.
It's morning adjacent.
Your hair's so cute.
Get out of here.
Oh my god.
Thank you. A cat is trying to break into my recording room right now.
Let them in.
No, I can't. And here's the reason why.
Well, you could, but you shortened.
I shortened, and here's why. On Saturday, when my parents were here and friend of the podcast, Olivia, and her boyfriend, Abe, were here.
Mm-hmm.
So we had a full house. So I woke up early, and I made everyone cute little Nespresso lattes.
Oh.
Set them out in a row. I was like, pick your latte. Here are some different like flavors you can add. There's some like
creaming tins.
Yeah, some little creamers and some like sprinkle of cinnamon. I set it up in a cute little row, right? Then Eric set our cat on top of the refrigerator because that's where Bubby, the boy cat, likes to hang out.
He does that. Yeah,
he does that.
It wasn't out of the ordinary.
No, that's normal. Because cats like to be up high, whatever. And the coffee cups were set up in a neat row on the kitchen island. The only way that the cat can get down is by jumping onto the kitchen island from on top of the refrigerator. So Eric put the cat on top of the refrigerator and then left the vicinity.
Mm-hmm.
So when the cat wanted down, he had to jump down onto the kitchen island where all of those coffee cups were neatly arranged.
Mm-hmm.
And he jumped into the coffee cups.
Mm-hmm.
And we were sitting outside on the porch, like drinking coffee, and I just hear like crash from inside, like the distinct sound of glass breaking.
Yeah.
And you know how when you have a pet and you're not in the room and you hear glass break, you're like, what did they do?
Oh, yeah.
For sure, right?
They did it.
My kitchen, Jess, when I tell you, was covered in coffee. Like 2 of the coffee cups he landed in and then
retracted.
They got kicked off the countertop.
Yeah.
And so they just exploded. There was coffee on the ceiling.
Oh.
I had to scrub coffee off of the ceiling.
Why didn't Eric do that?
Oh, he came in and he was like, what happened here? And I was like, you and the cat happened.
You did this. Yeah,
You did this.
Yep.
So cats are not allowed in my presence for a little while because I had to do some pretty extensive deep cleaning, like with a toothbrush. Like coffee was everywhere.
Mm-mm.
Uh-huh.
It's Eric's fault though, low key.
It feels low key like his fault, and that's why he came in to help, because he was like, I heard that and I was pretty sure I knew what it was, and I'm kind of sure that it's my fault. And I was like, well, it's not your fault.
It is. Yeah.
So
well, it's not your fault, Sydney. So if it's not your fault, it has to be Eric's fault.
I just feel like you set the cat up for failure. That's all there is.
Yeah.
You set him up for failure.
The coffee.
And the coffee. Oh, yeah. It was rough stuff over here.
Yeah.
What's new with you?
Nothing.
Your baby is the size of a 2-liter bottle of orange juice.
Yeah, that's real.
That's crazy.
Feels like it, too.
Mm-hmm.
The way this baby stomps around
on your
my
bladder.
Uterus.
And ribs. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Big stretchy vibes.
Rib punching,
bladder kicking, headbutting, just like all of the things, really. That's what this baby does.
Were you bad as a child?
What do you mean bad?
You weren't bad. You were a good kid, right?
Well, what do you mean bad? What does that mean?
Like, did your parents have to discipline you often for like bad behavior?
Well, what they would say was bad behavior, I don't agree.
Okay.
So, like, I was not a bad child per se, but I did have a lot of questions.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like my parents, and whatever, they don't listen to this. I feel like they just said no because they were like, fuck yeah, I could say no, I'm the parent. Like, and I would always be like, well, what is the reason? Like,
let's establish why.
Yeah, and that's when I would get in trouble because I won't ever quit
Mm-hmm.
Like, I will, until I feel like I know something.
That's fair.
And they would just tell me, like, because I said so.
Oh, I don't like that.
And so then I would be like, that's a stupid
It's
reason.
not a good reason, yeah.
And then I would be in trouble.
Okay. I can see it from both sides. But yeah, the reason I asked this question is because I wondered, I think I was kind of a bad kid. I think I have some karma
No, you weren't.
coming.
Well, I don't care if I was a bad kid or not, because this is not my fault. Whatever this baby does is literally Michelle's fault.
I think that's fair.
Yeah.
Was Michelle a bad kid?
No, she was a great kid.
Oh, I bet she was.
Her mom was like telling me like under the age of 2, Michelle was like trying to help with chores and like doing laundry, like just wanted to be the best.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, Michelle was a great kid.
I think Eric was a great kid,
Arguably, we
too.
made the right choice with our genetic.
Yeah.
Because I was difficult.
I think Eric was a good kid, too. Like, when I see pictures of him as a child, he had a very sweet little, like, lesbianish haircut.
Yeah.
And I think he was a really precious angel.
Yeah.
And I think that I was good until about the age of 12.
Okay. As someone who was once 12 and then also someone who taught those students, that's when you're like trying to figure out yourself.
Yeah.
So you're supposed to be an asshole.
Okay, perfect. Because I definitely was. From 12 to, I would say, about 20, I was like unmanageable.
No, Sydney, no.
Yeah.
You got like incredible grades. You were hella smart and successful. No. Listen, as a fan of Sydney from age 4, I can tell you that Sydney was fine.
I feel like this is also the problem because everyone in my life is so supportive.
Yeah.
That when teachers would call my parents, they would say, oh, Sydney did X, Y, and Z. And my parents would be like, well, what prompted that?
Right.
I think teachers were looking for like unwavering parental support. And I was like, you don't have that, friend. I do.
Yeah. I actually love that energy.
High levels of support from the Sproul family, for sure.
I never had someone call my parents.
That's how you know you were a
from
good
school.
kid.
That I will say. The only people I was difficult to were my parents. At school, I was like, I will never be a bad person.
They called my parents one time because I won't say any names in case anybody listens, but
no, say the name. Say the name. We can bleep it out. I want to know who it is.
Okay, I had a friendship bracelet with
Oh yeah, never understood that.
When we were in middle school. Maybe before middle school, and got mad that she didn't get one, so she told the principal. And they called my mom, and on my way into the office, I was like, bitch, this is why you didn't get a friendship bracelet.
You said that?
Yes.
But it's true.
They called my mom, and I was like, I mean, what am I to do? I have to be friends with everyone? That's not fair to me.
100%. Like, I wish you could see how big my eyes are. Hold on.
We're going to have to bleep all these names. Bleep them all.
Bleep them all. That's a stupid reason to call your mom.
Yeah, I felt the same way, and so did my mom. My mom was like, do you know how busy I am in the day?
Your mom was like, I am the president of a bank.
Why are we talking about this? Oh, karma. I think I have some karma coming when I have kids. I bet they're going to be like little hellions.
I don't think so, Sydney. I don't actually think... You haven't given me a reason to believe that you were a hellion.
You were around me in high school.
Yeah, I was a fan. What do you want?
I like...
You were a bop.
Drank in a field most weekends.
Yeah, but you weren't, like, driving.
On a tailgate. Yeah. Yeah.
You were responsible.
Was I?
I think so.
I feel like I had responsible friends.
Yeah, that's true.
Such as yourself,
yeah.
who mothered me through adolescence.
I was say, yeah, I did that.
Yeah, you were there. Yeah.
I think that's where people fuck up, though, is when they want to be bad, and then they just fuck their whole life up. You didn't want to be bad. You were just, like, having a good time.
Yeah.
Still maintaining your all A's. You were, like, calculus. I fucking knocked off after algebra 2. I was like, you can kiss my ass. This don't make no fucking sense.
Calculus is where they got the letters and shit, and I'm out.
I don't know what the fuck. I literally was like, I've blacked out. What? Can I please go back to English?
Yeah. You were definitely what do you call it? Humanities or...
Yes. Put me in the class from which I will make zero money. Don't try and teach me the maths.
Don't teach
and
me the
sciences.
maths. I can't be a part of it. Let's talk about this update. We're gonna slow down a little. Some people may or may not be disappointed by this. We're gonna slow down because I'm getting ready to hopefully start a new job.
Yeah.
And Jess has a baby in her that is the size of a 2-liter.
I'm getting ready to start new life.
You're correct. Yeah.
We talked about it.
We're gonna slow down a little.
Yeah, we talked about it. And basically, we don't want to stop doing the podcast. So we were like,
Yeah.
what's a good compromise? And we're thinking twice a month, but it's going to be a surprise. Like it could be 2 at the start of the month or we'll like post before. So you'll see it on Instagram when the episode's going to come out the next day. You'll see it.
Yeah. So follow us on social media if you don't do that already. We've been doing this pretty consistently for like over 2 years.
Yeah.
And we need a little bit of time. It's great. We don't want to stop.
Yeah.
But we're going to build in some breaks so that we can
live,
catch up with ourselves and live our lives. Yeah.
Yep.
Cool. You want to get into this?
Yeah. So I'm excited for our topic today.
Same.
So I saw this on, I think it was TikTok. Let's be clear. It was like the most prolific poisoner.
Mm-hmm.
And it was this like woman from ancient Rome. And I was like, yeah, fucking right. Mm-hmm. And so I Googled her and I was like, oh.
This is real. Yeah.
This is crazy. And so it's real. So then I pinged it over to Sydney and Sydney was like, oh, fuck yeah. For Women's History Month, we covered an awesome woman. And now we're going to cover a different kind of awesome woman.
Yeah, I feel weird about saying that she's... Okay, I'm conflicted. We'll get into it. You'll understand why I'm conflicted.
Yeah. I think it's bad because usually when people murder people and we talk about them, we hate them. Mm-hmm. But for some reason, I don't know if it's because it was so long ago or if it's because I just trust women that I'm like, she's probably fine.
I mean, murdering spouses is not cool.
Yeah, it's not cool.
For sure.
Yeah.
And we're going to get into some strong husband killing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to preface all of this. There's a historian named Mike Dash, and mike-history.com is like my new homepage because he does some really excellent rundowns where he has like really extensive research that he's done, side stories, pulled in all of these different sources. He's an excellent resource if you're looking to learn more on a history topic, and we'll link his article that he wrote about this topic because he's a great historian and he does a really good job explaining the story. So, if you believe Giulia's confessions, then she is likely among the most prolific serial killers / assassins in history. We're going to start by taking things way back to Rome, and the year is about 1651 by most estimates. A woman and her husband have just sat down for dinner. The woman brings in a bowl of soup for her husband, and I'm going to editorialize. I think it was like they've had a long day.
Oh, right. It's 1651, so
you have to imagine the day has been long. Yeah.
Yeah.
Survival has been tough.
Yeah. I literally would never like to be alive then. Thank you so much.
Same. I like to imagine in this scenario, it's also maybe a little rainy, like drizzly outside. It's dreary. So the soup is like...
Oh, for the soup?
Yeah. Maybe they're both wrapped in a little sweater, like a knit sweater. The soup is cozy and he's just starving. You know, he's like ready to dig into the soup that his allegedly loving wife has been working hard on. He's stoked to eat the soup. She's kind of watching him about to eat the soup with bated breath. She's like, go ahead and take a bite. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, just normal how you watch your spouse eat. And he's about to lift the spoon to his mouth and have the first sip when she freaks out, runs over, knocks the spoon out of his hand. The husband is absolutely flabbergasted by this outburst, and he listens as she bursts into tears and explains why he can't have any of this presumably delicious soup that she's prepared. You see, this woman, like many in the story that we're about to tell, was an aspiring widow.
As you do.
As you do. And the soup that he was ready to dig into was laced with poison in an attempt to take her husband's life. So, let's assume that maybe the husband wasn't a super forgiving dude, because after he hears this story about how his wife wanted to unalive him but then got cold feet, he calls the Roman police, who come to arrest her.
That's what she gets for having cold feet.
I mean, all or none, right?
Once you make poison soup, you need to fucking follow through, ma'am.
I feel like you've done the hardest part, but okay. I mean, don't kill your spouse.
Don't kill your spouse, but
sure.
To this specific woman, I say, you done fucked it up for yourself.
Right. Either don't do it or do it, but you kind of like halfway did it. So the police arrest her. She's in the custody of the authorities. This woman was tortured relentlessly until she eventually gave up the name of the woman who had sold her the colorless, odorless, tasteless poison that she had slipped into her husband's bisque. Now it's a bisque. I like to imagine it's a bisque.
Yeah. Now we're elevating it.
And that woman's name is Giulia Tofana.
And just kidding. We can't. I can't do that.
We can't.
Because she is a murderer.
Yeah, Eric was like, be careful, because I feel like Jess is going to be really into the husband murdering part.
First of all, Eric, mind your fucking business.
She might murder my husband.
First of all, why don't you worry about where you place your cat?
What?
How about you worry about that?
Uh-oh.
Them's cat fighting words.
Eric, you ain't ready for this.
But I am. And I know I am into it. I had to catch myself for sure, because I was like, it's probably fine. But then I was like, no, you can't just go around helping people murder people. No.
There's a lot of husbands, and I feel like not all of them can have been as bad as they were described to be, right?
Yeah, I think it's a lot of murder. I just think murder is wrong. Yeah.
Sure.
Before we, I don't know why I felt like I needed to say that.
That's a hard stance, yeah.
Fucking obviously. We don't support murder.
Like you just have a mug that says like murder with an X over it. Yeah.
I think that would be hilarious.
That's our new merch.
I think it feels to me kind of like a fairy tale, but it's not. Like it feels like fake, but it was real. So then I have to.
It was real, yeah.
Yeah.
Fair.
Yeah. So the most notorious husband assassin of the 17th century Rome was brought down by this bowl of soup. Let's talk about the setting, because we've said this about places and times before, but 1600s Rome was like not a picnic, especially for the ladies. And arguably, are we in that time now?
I mean.
Anyway, moving on. In a time and place where unchecked power was afforded to wealthy landowning men, women were essentially auctioned off into marriages that were often very uncool and included horrific abuse.
Yeah.
That's just a fact.
Mm-hmm.
In this patriarchal society, that wasn't especially frowned upon, and women were considered to have no social standing of their own and had very few independent opportunities to better their circumstances. Basically, society viewed them as property.
Right.
And that's just of the times, and then culturally too, right? So
yeah,
women at the time had only a few options at their disposal for their life.
Yeah.
One was to get married, hopefully not to someone who treats you like shit and sucks.
Mm-hmm.
That's option one. 2, remain single and rely on sex work to pay your bills. That's option 2.
Mm-hmm.
3, marry someone rich and then become a widow by whatever means necessary.
An aspiring widow, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So those options are, all of them have their ups and downs, right? For many women in Roman society, option 3 sounded like a winner chicken dinner.
It's the only one that sounds like you come out on top.
Yeah, the others are kind of rough, you know?
Yeah.
Because of how many aspiring widows were out there on these streets looking for a way to off their spouses, 17th century Rome had a flourishing criminal underworld full of people who were ready to provide a service to make all their rich widow dreams come true.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Women who were stuck in abusive relationships could absolutely not seek divorce or expect any kind of assistance from the powers that be, who were probably also beating their wives.
Correct. Mm-hmm.
Not to get political.
Let's get political. That's my favorite pastime.
That is your favorite pastime, and in general, I would say I'm here for it.
Period.
So, many decided to take matters into their own hands. And the seedy people in this criminal underworld, including alchemists, apothecaries, and black magic experts, were more than willing to help with things that authorities and doctors couldn't. And this isn't just murder. It included things like birth control, abortions, and also, you guessed it, murdering your husband. So,
Did you see the article or in a section of one of the articles where it was talking about a priest was also part of this underground?
oh, we're going to get into that. Yeah.
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 I was
There's a
like,
priest.
ooh.
This story really has everything.
Yeah, it does.
It feels like it does. So, enter our infamous leading lady, Giulia Tofana. And Giulia, let's talk about the spelling because I love it, is Giulia. It's like Giulia.
I like it too.
So she was born in Palermo, which is a part of Sicily, which happens to be my husband's family's home country,
yeah.
motherland. That's where they're from.
Okay.
So she was born there in 1620 to a mother named Tofania D'Amato, which I kind of like Tofania.
No,
No? Okay.
absolutely not. Sounds like tofu.
Tofu.
Tofania.
That's true.
Now you can't not think about tofu.
Tofunia.
Yeah.
Now I can't, yeah. So her mother would eventually become infamous in her own right. And do you have any guesses about how her mom got famous?
Probably some sort of crime.
She murdered her own husband.
Right, Crimington. Yeah, it runs in the family. We get it.
Mm-hmm. So Giulia just happens to have been the daughter of someone that was also an aspiring widow.
Yeah, it's not funny, but
So
it's funny.
no, it's not, but it is.
Yeah.
Tofania was actually executed by authorities in Palermo in 1633 for the poisoning death of her own husband. It's been rumored that she passed down the recipe for her best performing poison to her daughter Giulia.
Mm-hmm.
And
I mean, some people leave dishes to their children.
sure, maybe a ring.
Some people leave recipes for poison.
For poison, specifically for poisoning your husband.
That sometimes happens, apparently.
I just think that a modern psychologist would have a field day with this family.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot going on here. The mother, Tofania, was allegedly executed in a public square by being drawn and quartered.
That is not a good time.
If you don't already know what that is, don't look it up.
Yeah, just live your life like you don't know.
Trust me when I say
it's not a good way to die.
it's bad, yeah. Mike Dash, the historian that a lot of this came from, he kind of brought up the point that all of these women get executed in pretty aggressive ways. Like some of them are tortured basically to death.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason for that being they're kind of making an example out of women who are trying to take the circumstances into their own hands that are sort of challenging the status quo.
Yep.
And also they're murdering their husbands, to be clear.
Yeah. But also only men are, like if they had been tried by a jury of their peers, maybe they...
Probably not drawn and quartered.
Yeah, probably not that. That is
probably executed,
really rough
but that's a rough way to
die.
go. Yeah.
Yeah, that is not, it's not cool.
Yeah.
So while we don't know a ton about her background, because this is all happening in the 1600s and people didn't write things down at the time.
Who has time?
We know that after her mother's execution, she moved from Palermo to Naples to Rome, where she eventually set up an apothecary shop. Somewhere along the way, she has a daughter and becomes a widow herself. Raised eyebrows.
Oh, absolutely.
Winky, winky. Moving on.
The highest eyebrows possible.
Yeah.
Because I'm pretty sure she did it.
Yeah.
Like, maybe not, but
Maybe, well yeah, we can speculate.
wildly.
In front of the shop, Giulia sold makeup and cosmetics and a variety of tinctures. Sydney just told me what that meant.
Mm-hmm.
To enhance the beauty of her clientele. And they offered ancient herbal remedies for issues that doctors couldn't or wouldn't cure. So there you go. That's why we're talking about her here.
Yeah.
For those of you who are like, this doesn't make sense to be talking about in this medical science podcast. First of all, mind your business.
Oh my God, mind your business.
Second of all, yes, it does.
Yeah. How's your podcast going?
Yeah, period. So in addition to skincare and fortune-telling sessions, they also help people with common ailments like headaches and fatigue. Bitch, help me. I'm tired.
Back in a time when no one drank coffee, can you imagine how cranky everyone was all the time?
Oh, big crank vibes.
I would be
I'm cranky now.
cranky as hell.
So in the back of the shop, Giulia, her daughter, and a ring of trusted associates that may or may not have included a local priest that we talked about, sold a toxic liquid that would help women out of the marriages they found themselves trapped in by whatever means necessary.
Mm-hmm. So, about this priest, some versions of the story say that Giulia's group of poisoners may have included a local Roman priest, Father Girolamo.
What a name.
Girolamo. I'm going to say these all with Italian accents because they sound better that way. And
I like it.
if you don't like it, come at me. So they asked this guy to take part in their criminal network, or maybe he just wanted in. I don't know how he got there, but it's generally believed that Girolamo supplied the arsenic for the poison, and Tofana and her colleagues disguised it as a cosmetic for their customers. Because this dude, Father G, his brother was an apothecary, and it seems from the historian perspective like he was pretty chill about who he sold poisons to.
Yeah.
So historically, that detail kind of checks out, that he was maybe potentially involved, and that's where they got the arsenic for this mixture.
Again, obviously, none of this is cool or okay. Like, we're not condoning murder. But
Big butt.
Giulia and her helpers allegedly only offered the solution, which they called aqua tofana, to women who were in truly desperate situations. Allegedly, right?
Allegedly.
They particularly had a soft spot for women whose husbands were causing bodily harm, which makes the whole story a little more palatable, like a little more...
Yeah.
And most of her clientele wasn't made up of rich, gold-digging, like the Black Widow types, but poor, lower-class women in impossible situations that were really trying to get some help.
Right. We probably don't have to keep saying this. Like, obviously, murdering your spouse is extremely uncool in any situation.
Well, we might have to keep saying it because I think I make it sound kind of cool sometimes.
Fair. I mean, the physical violence against women who are treated like property.
It's not okay. Yeah.
This aqua tofana was sold in these beautiful decorative little glass bottles as a coveted cream or face oil that was used by Italian ladies looking to preserve their youth, or aspiring widows, wink wink. It came in a bottle or sometimes a powder case that was labeled as Manna of St. Nicholas of Bari, which was a popular healing ointment at the time that was actually used for like spot treating blemishes. They packaged the poison so that it would easily blend in, and you could sit it on your like vanity next to your other makeup and cosmetic products, and no one would ever be the wiser, right?
Just do not accidentally use it.
Don't put it on your face. Although, when we get into the ingredient list, people actually did put things like arsenic and belladonna that are really toxic onto their faces as part of their makeup regimen. So
yeah, don't add to it.
Yeah. The glass bottle itself had a picture or a carving of St. Nicholas on the front, and all of the Reformed Catholics out there may or may not know that old St. Nick is also called Nicholas the Wonder Worker, and he was considered to give protection and perform miracles for the poor and downtrodden.
Okay.
He's a pretty, as far as saints go, a pretty cool dude. He gave seemingly magical gifts to orphans, prisoners, sex workers. There's a story specifically where he helped 3 young women avoid going into sex work by like bringing their parents a bag full of money. So Nicholas was a pretty cool dude. He was also the potentially the basis for the modern day Santa Claus because he was like the bringer of gifts.
That makes sense.
And he was the patron saint of the unmarried. Hello, foreshadowing.
How fitting. Perfect. So basically, women would come into Giulia's shop looking for cosmetics, and they would start chatting. People described her as a beautiful young widow who made powerful antidotes to common health problems. The history of this apothecary shop and her network of colleagues is somewhat debated, but one historian that we love, Mike Dash, whose article, like we said, we've included in the show notes, found a record of Giulia's mother's execution and the escape of her helper, Francesca Lasarda. Some historical records from the time indicate that Francesca was possibly the one who helped teach Giulia how to concoct her mother's deadly poison after her execution. Sometimes during her chats with her customers, the customer would provide Giulia with some less than flattering details about how her husband had been treating her, and then things would start rolling downhill.
Yeah, quickly. I want to start this little segment by saying, please excuse my pronunciation on the next part. According to our favorite new historian and bestie, Mike Dash, it would seem that Giulia had a group of, it was 6 women total working with her. Her daughter, Girolama Spara, 2 poison makers, Giovanna de Grandis, Maria Spinola, and 2 saleswomen or dispensers that were like the front of shop people, Laura Crispolti and Graziosa Farina.
Sounded pretty good to me.
Thank you. I worked really hard on those. I didn't. Giulia's daughter was described as being comfortable in like aristocratic circles, and Giulia's daughter, Girolama, eventually becomes a widow herself, interestingly enough. One man's journal from the time described her as a kind of like spiritual woman who sold charms and cures to the Roman elite. So she would get like invited to parties and maybe read fortunes and things like that. And that's how she met a lot of her clientele. From Mike's publication about this, quote, "These activities would not only have introduced her to potential customers, but would also have given her a shrewd idea of which of her clients were happy in their marriages and which were unhappy. Not to mention, might be desperate enough to seek drastic remedies and be able to keep a secret." So she was like in this posh inner circle of people. I think personally, eventually Giulia's daughter takes over her business, and that's where I think it gets a lot more loose with the criteria about who is allowed to buy the poison.
Well,
you know what I mean?
Yeah, Soup Lady should have been a no-go.
Oh, Soup Lady should have been a no-go for sure. I think that Giulia was pretty strict about like only the downtrodden, beaten women who like can't afford a way out.
Yeah, we're helping. We're Robin Hood.
Yes. And then Giulia's daughter was like, whoever can pay can get this poison. That's fine.
And truly, no, I was gonna, nope.
But reel that one right back in.
No. So Aqua Tofana was sold exclusively to women from every rank of society by the way of this secretive network of fortune tellers and these cunning women and businesswomen.
Yeah.
According to some historians, including Mike Dash, Giulia may have eventually employed up to 200 people.
Yeah.
Including, quote, wise women, astrologers, alchemists, confidence men, witches, shady apothecaries, and backstreet abortionists who, between them, told fortunes and cast horoscopes, sold love potions and lucky charms, cured toothaches, and offered to dispose of unwanted husbands.
Just casual, yeah. I'll get rid of that for you.
Yeah, no big deal.
Yeah.
Rumors started spreading around Rome about a string of suspicious deaths, so much so that in 1650, Roman authorities issued a public notice about the effects of the poison. These notices also warned the public to be extremely careful because poisonings were on the rise.
Yeah.
That's so scary. Because, like, you have to eat.
You do.
Right. Whether they included be nice to your wife or else is also up for debate, but maybe they should have been like,
yeah,
be friendlier. You never know.
Hey, friend, don't be a dick because now your wife has something that she can do when you are a dick.
Yeah.
You know, if you've been under your husband, like, not my husband is great, but if you've been under your super controlling husband's thumb for, let's say, years and years and years, he's been treating you like shit, and then you find out that that particular problem could go away.
You might jump on that.
You might do some research. I don't know. You might make some new friends.
Yeah.
Oh, also, historians kind of speculate that the reason they put it in a bottle that was shaped like St. Nicholas or had a St. Nicholas carving on it is because people would be much less suspicious of like a religious iconography than they would of like just a normal bottle.
Yeah, of course.
Which is sneaky.
Yeah.
It's very sly.
Smart.
So this liquid called Aqua Tofana was likely made up of a combination of arsenic, lead, and belladonna, which is a deadly nightshade plant. All 3 of these were regularly used in cosmetics at the time, which, yikes, don't put poison on your face.
Yeah, big nope.
So having them around her shop to make this poison didn't even make anyone particularly suspicious because they're like, yeah, you run a cosmetic business. Sure, you have all these things, right?
Obviously, you have to have poisons.
Obviously. Obviously, you need arsenic. Duh.
Yikes.
While her original recipe was never actually recorded, medical historians believe they've cracked the details after hearing the full list of symptoms, which included agonizing pains in the stomach and throat, vomiting, extreme thirst, and dysentery. And all of these suggest potentially arsenic poisoning, since we know that she was probably also getting the arsenic from her friend, the priest, Father G. That makes a lot of sense. And the concoction may or may not have also included antimony and or mercuric chloride, because these would have been things that she could have gotten her hands on these easily.
Mm-hmm.
The liquid they created was also colorless and flavorless, which is sneaky. And it was said to be able to kill a person with about 4 to 6 drops, but it did so over the course of about 4 days when administered correctly. The first dose would make you feel weak and kind of mad, like feverish. It's like when you can feel that a cold is coming on.
Yeah.
The second dose caused symptoms like stomachache, extreme thirst, vomiting, and dysentery, right? So by dose 2, you're like, oh shit, something's really wrong. We better call a doctor. And by the third or fourth dose, the person who had been poisoned was almost definitely dead.
Mm-hmm.
And one super interesting and sly aspect about how that poison works is that it looked to doctors like the onset of some kind of disease because it progressed over the course of several days. So it gives the person who is dying a chance to get their affairs in order, to call a doctor and make that doctor think that now you have a history of some medical condition.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, the poisoner / wife would be right by the sick person's bedside taking care of them. And that sort of helped remove suspicion from themselves. So it's really creative how they did this.
We're not supportive of it,
No.
but we do appreciate the ingenuity behind
I just
it.
recognize a good con when I see one.
Con, yeah. Yeah. The poison was also at the time untraceable, and because of that, death seemed rather sudden, even in younger, healthy people.
Right.
Like, weren't that uncommon, right, at the time. This is the 1600s. Bitches be dying.
Bitches be dying.
That's the slogan. Yeah. So the new grieving widow would demand an autopsy to keep her reputation intact, and investigators and surgeons would find the person must have died from natural causes, i.e. some unknown disease or illness.
Yeah.
But people could have started to get carried away at this point. Although there are different stories about how they actually got caught, several historians' accounts say that they became overconfident and greedy, allowing customers to commit so many murders that people in power finally noticed. So
No.
don't do that.
That's how you get caught.
Hello, bing bong. According to one historian, David Stewart, for example, quote, it had come to the notice of Pope Alexander, was that the 7th?
7th, yeah. I think so.
I never was good at Roman numerals.
Same.
Ever.
Nobody
Just
is.
put a 7 there.
Just put a 7.
So Pope Alexander the 7th was like, there's great numbers of women, young and old, were confessing to their priests that they had poisoned their husbands with new slow poisons.
Mm-hmm.
Even in the streets, it was popularly believed that the young widows were unusually abundant. So, hold on now. If you're going to commit a crime, hold on.
Mm-hmm.
Don't go confessing.
Don't talk to your priest
Don't
about it, maybe.
Tell your priest.
Yeah. I mean, we're not telling poisoners how to not get caught. We don't want to do that. But that seems pretty self-explanatory.
I mean, I know that's what it sounds like I'm doing, but why would anyone... I would give this advice to anyone. Don't tell the police. Mm-hmm. Don't talk to the police, and don't talk to the priest.
Like, your priest is going to tattle on you. There's a line, right? You can confess your sins to your priest, and they're supposed to keep it, like, under wraps, but at a point...
They won't.
And that point is probably murder.
Yeah.
They gotta tell somebody.
Hopefully.
Also, the priest is probably like, what the fuck? The 4th time he hears it?
Or, like, how many... I wonder if there's any repeat offenders.
Dude.
Who it's like...
They get, like, immediately married again, and they're like, boy, I'm so unlucky. My husbands keep dying.
Yeah.
Sus.
Roman chronicles and court records suggest that the gang was possibly exposed after one of their members, Giovanna de Grandis, was arrested for the 4th time,
4th.
With a bottle of the deadly poison found in her pocket. Although she claimed it was simply a potion intended to remove unwanted marks from clients' faces, her captors suspected otherwise. I'd be like, put it on your face then.
Do it.
And drink a little.
Yeah, take a sip.
Yeah, Roman authorities made a big show of releasing her, but they were secretly setting up a sting operation. Okay, you know what? Advanced.
Yeah, when people cover this part of the story where they talk about the sting operation, they're like, this is not typical. Like, they really wanted to get to the bottom of this, and this is like the first time you've ever seen the Roman authorities do some actual police work.
Yeah, they were pretty bad when it came to, Jesus. They were like...
That was good. So as part of this sting, like the first sting in history, while Giovanna went back to the girls and started up the same old poison game that she had already been arrested for 4 times.
Bitch, can you slow down?
I mean, chill. I'd be like, look, Giovanna, here's the thing. You got to take a back seat.
Yeah, you gotta take a sabbatical.
And I think maybe lie low for just a little bit.
And don't murder.
And then when the heat is off you, you can come back.
Yeah.
But just relax for like a minute. You don't need to be a part of this particular murder, maybe. So she goes back to the girls. They start up the poison game again. A noblewoman from Florence, which is one of my favorite cities in Italy, by the name of Signora Loretti, was brought to the city. And she was set up with the identity of the Marchesa Romanini. The Roman authorities moved her into a big-ass mansion in a really fashionable area, and shortly thereafter, she started talking with Giovanna,
Right.
which is how you should have known
Right.
from the jump that it was a problem. Because why did she seek out Giovanna? How did she find her? Okay.
Yeah.
Because most of this is by word of mouth. Like a woman murders her husband and then she tells her friends, look, I know your husband is also a dick. I got a guy for that.
Yeah.
And they send her to Giovanna. Giovanna's, knocking fellas out right and left. At first, she said she wanted like an astrologer / fortune teller. And then during those sessions, she started telling her new friend about her unhappy marriage, claiming that she would be willing to pay a ton for a bottle of Acqua Tofana, which is another way that you should have known you were being set up.
Right.
Giovanna comes back with this little vial. She brings it back to the Marchesa. She hands it to her. Marchesa hands over the money. 2 officers step out of the shadow. She's arrested for the 5th time.
God damn.
Yeah, check for a wire if you're going to poison everyone. Around the same time, the soup story from the beginning of the episode was going down, and so the walls start closing in around these 6 women in the core gang really quickly.
Right. So, historians say that Giulia heard about the warrant for her arrest before the police got to her and was granted sanctuary by a local church until a rumor began to spread that she had poisoned the city's water supply, and the government took action, apprehending her and subjecting her to some pretty horrific torture.
Yeah.
Now we're not saying she did or didn't poison the water supply, but people can't say that about you and you not get tortured at that time.
Yeah, they're going to come down on you pretty hard if there's
Yeah.
even a myth that you poison the water supply, I would have to guess.
Yeah, that's not a good look. Eventually, Giulia would confess to killing over 600 men from 1633 to 1651. That is not a lot of time to be murdering in Rome alone. And I would actually say she should say that she was like an accessory and not that she murdered them.
Yeah, she didn't directly murder them. She did provide the ability for other people to murder them. So accessory seems like a fair charge. I don't think they cared, though.
I doubt that they had those Yeah, thank you.
No.
Which would make her the mastermind behind one of the most notorious murder plots in history, and one of the largest too.
Yeah.
All 6 of these women were brought to a huge scandalous trial and quickly convicted. While some of the details are missing, we know that on July 6, 1659, Sparra herself, De Grandis, Maria Spinola, Laura Crispoletti. I'm so good at these names.
Basically the core 6.
Yeah.
You were doing great, yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm not.
The core squad.
They were all hanged in the Campo de Fiori in the presence of an unusually large crowd.
Mm-hmm.
Eventually, over 40 lower-class women were put on trial and executed after it was revealed they had been customers of Tofana, while many of the upper-class ladies were imprisoned or banished for their involvement, which is not okay.
No, there's clearly 2 different justice systems in ancient Rome and probably still around today.
Gotta get political.
Got to. At the very end, why not sprinkle it in?
Why not? And that's what we know about that.
That's what we know about that. Don't murder your husband.
Poisoned 600 people.
Yeah.
Don't do that.
Yeah. Keep it chill,
And if you do have a tighter network.
Don't get out of hand with it, I would say.
Yeah, keep it chill. That's the problem. They didn't keep it chill.
Fair.
We hope you like this episode.
Yeah, thanks for listening.
If you have a recommendation for something we should cover, even if it's just close to a topic we should cover, if it's cool, we'll cover it.
Yeah.
We don't care.
We're getting loose with the topics.
We are, and we like it. This will be our last episode for this month.
Mm-hmm.
Keep that in mind. We're starting the relaxy time now, but we'll be back in April.
Yeah. So thanks for sticking with us and being cool while we're getting our lives together.
Yeah, thanks for being cool, guys.
Thanks for being cool. If you like what we're doing, don't forget to leave us a review wherever you like to listen. I promise we read each and every one of them and screenshot.
Cry
and
sometimes.
send them back and forth to each other and cry if they're nice.
Yeah.
Don't leave a review if you're going to talk about our voices or our vocal fry. Right?
I don't care.
And don't forget, malpractice makes perfect.
Perfect.